What if I told you that one teacher changed hundreds of students, lives without using fear, punishment, or magic? His secret was so powerful that it stayed with them forever. Stay with me, because this one lesson might change the way you think forever. Power of belief. The new student entered the classroom with his head down. He believed he was the weakest person in the room. Every test confirmed his fear, and every mistake made him even quieter. While others saw a failing student, one teacher saw hidden potential. Instead of giving long lectures, the teacher changed one simple thing. Every time the student completed a task, no matter how small, he said, "See? You are improving." At first, those words felt meaningless, but repeated day after day, they slowly replaced the negative voice inside the student's mind. The teacher explained that the brain follows the beliefs we repeat most often. If we constantly tell ourselves we cannot succeed, our actions begin to match that belief. But when we believe growth is possible, we start noticing opportunities instead of obstacles. Weeks became months. The student raised his hand more often, answered difficult questions, and stopped fearing failure. His grades improved, but the greatest change happened inside his mind. Confidence replaced self-doubt, and hope replaced fear. Years later, he became successful in his own career. People admired his achievements and asked about the secret behind his confidence. He always smiled and remembered the teacher, who taught him that belief comes before success. The greatest lesson was never about passing exams. It was about discovering that one positive belief, repeated every day, can completely change the direction of a person's life. Hidden classroom secret. The classroom looked just like any other, but one small habit made it different. Every morning, the teacher welcomed each student with the same calm smile and one simple question. What is one thing you can improve today? At first, the students gave random answers. Some stayed silent. Others laughed. The teacher never forced anyone to speak. Days passed and something unexpected happened. The students stopped comparing themselves with others. Instead, they began competing with the person they had been yesterday. A student who feared speaking started answering questions. Another who always gave up began finishing every assignment. Their marks improved, but more importantly, their confidence grew. Visitors thought the teacher had a special method or a secret formula. They searched for complicated techniques, but they found nothing unusual. The real secret was simple. He trained his students to focus on progress instead of perfection. Whenever someone failed, he never called it the end. He would quietly say, "Failure is information, not your identity." Those words stayed in their minds long after the lesson ended. Years later, many students returned to thank him. They realized the greatest lesson had never been hidden inside books. It was hidden in the way he changed their thinking, one small step at a time. The hidden classroom secret was never magic. It was the daily habit of believing that small improvements create extraordinary lives. Confidence changes everything. A quiet student sat in the back of the classroom every day. He avoided eye contact, never volunteered, and believed everyone else was smarter than him. Most people saw a shy student, but his teacher saw someone whose confidence had simply been buried. One afternoon, the teacher gave the class a difficult challenge. While everyone rushed to find the answer, he walked over to the quiet student and said, "I trust your thinking. Show me your first idea." Those few words changed everything. For the first time, the student felt that someone truly believed in him. From that day forward, the teacher continued encouraging progress instead of perfection. Every small success was celebrated, and every mistake became a lesson instead of a reason to quit. Slowly, the student began speaking up, asking questions and helping classmates. Months later, he was no longer hiding in the last row. His grades improved, but more importantly, he had learned to believe in himself. The confidence he gained inside the classroom followed him into every part of life. Years passed, and he became a successful professional. When people asked what had changed his future, he never mentioned luck or talent. He remembered one teacher who taught him that confidence is built through trust, effort, and persistence. The greatest gift a teacher can give is not only knowledge, it is the belief that every student is capable of achieving far more than they ever imagined. Student mind transformation. Every student entered the classroom carrying different fears. Some feared failure, others feared judgment, and a few had already convinced themselves they would never succeed. The teacher noticed something important. Before changing grades, he had to change the way his students thought. He introduced one simple rule. Whenever someone said, "I can't do this," they had to add the words, "Yet." At first, the class laughed. It sounded too simple to make any difference. But the teacher knew that one small word could completely change a person's mindset. As the weeks passed, students became more willing to ask questions, solve difficult problems, and learn from mistakes. They stopped chasing perfection and started focusing on progress. Confidence slowly replaced fear because they no longer believed failure was permanent. The biggest transformation happened quietly. Students who once avoided challenges began looking for them. They discovered that ability grows through practice, patience, and consistent effort. Their success was not created by magic, but by a new way of thinking. Years later, many of those students faced difficult moments in life. Instead of giving up, they remembered the teacher's lesson. They kept moving forward because they believed improvement was always possible. The true transformation was never about better test scores. It was about creating stronger minds, greater confidence, and the courage to keep learning. When a student's mindset changes, their future changes with it. One life lesson. On the first day of class, the teacher placed an empty glass on the desk and asked, "What do you see?" The students gave different answers. Some said it was half full, others said half empty. The teacher smiled and replied, "Your answer reveals how you train your mind." From that day on, every lesson carried a deeper message. When a student failed, the teacher never focused on the mistake. Instead, he asked, "What did this teach you?" At first, the class thought these questions were strange. But over time, they realized they were learning far more than school subjects. One student, who had always feared failure, slowly began taking chances. Another stopped comparing himself with classmates and started measuring progress against his own past. The classroom became a place where confidence grew stronger than fear. Before graduation, the teacher shared one final thought. "Life will test your mindset before it rewards your effort." Those words stayed with every student long after they left school. Years later, many of them succeeded in different careers. They faced setbacks, criticism, and uncertainty. But they remembered that single lesson. Instead of giving up, they adapted, learned, and moved forward. The teacher never gave them a shortcut to success. He gave them something far more valuable, a way of thinking that turned every challenge into an opportunity. Sometimes one life lesson is enough to change an entire future. Invisible teacher influence. No one noticed the teacher's greatest skill because it was invisible. He did not use dramatic speeches or impossible challenges. Instead, he changed lives through small actions repeated every single day. His students never realized they were being transformed until years later. Whenever a student made a mistake, the teacher remained calm. He would ask, "What did you discover?" instead of, "Why did you fail?" That simple question shifted their attention from embarrassment to learning. Slowly, fear disappeared and curiosity took its place. The classroom atmosphere became different from every other class. Students encouraged one another, accepted feedback, and stopped believing that intelligence was fixed. They learned that effort, patience, and consistent practice could reshape their abilities. After graduation, life tested every student in different ways. Some faced rejection, others experienced failure, and many struggled with self-doubt. Yet they all remembered the teacher's quiet influence. Instead of quitting, they reflected, improved, and tried again. The habits he built inside the classroom became lifelong strengths. People often ask those former students what had made such a difference in their lives. They rarely mentioned grades or textbooks. They spoke about a teacher who quietly changed the way they viewed problems, success, and themselves. The greatest influence is not always loud or visible. Sometimes the person who changes your future is the one who teaches you to believe in yourself when nobody else does. That invisible lesson becomes a permanent part of who you are. Silent mind shift. Every student believed their teacher was ordinary. He never shouted, never tried to impress anyone, and never claimed to know every answer. Yet year after year, his students became more confident, more disciplined, and more successful than everyone expected. People wondered what his secret was. One morning, he wrote a single sentence on the board, "Your mind believes what you repeat." Then, he smiled and asked the class to Think about it for the rest of the day. Most students ignored the message at first, but every lesson, every correction, and every small success carried the same idea. Instead of saying, "You are wrong," he would say, "You are learning." Instead of praising talent, he praised effort. Slowly, students stopped fearing mistakes and started seeing them as part of growth. Weeks turned into months. The quiet students began raising their hands. The weakest learners became more determined. Confidence replaced doubt because the teacher had changed the words they repeated to themselves. His real lesson was never hidden in textbooks. It was hidden inside the habits he built every day. Long after graduation, his students forgot many classroom facts, but they never forgot the belief he planted in their minds. The greatest teachers do not only teach subjects, they transform the way people think. And once a person's thinking changes, their future begins to change as well. The final revelation. The school year had come to an end. The students expected one final lecture filled with advice. But their teacher walked into the classroom carrying only a blank sheet of paper. He placed it on the desk and asked, "What do you think is written here?" Everyone looked confused. There was nothing on the page. The teacher smiled and said, "This paper is your future. Every choice, every habit, and every belief you build will write the story that belongs only to you." The room became completely silent. For the first time, the students realized that their future was not controlled by luck alone. He reminded them that knowledge opens doors, but character decides whether those doors stay open. He explained that failure is temporary, discipline is powerful, and a positive mindset can overcome obstacles that seem impossible. As the final bell rang, the students left the classroom carrying more than books. They carried a new way of thinking. Years later, they faced success, failure, and unexpected challenges, yet the teacher's final words continued to guide them. Many people believe the teacher's greatest lesson had been hidden inside his classes. The truth was revealed only at the end. His real mission was never to create perfect students. It was to create independent thinkers who believed in themselves and never stopped learning. That was the final revelation. A great teacher does not simply prepare students for exams. A great teacher prepares them for life, and that lesson lasts forever.